Welcome to the Conservative Take, where we are destroying the woke narratives. Now, in this reaction video, you're going to ask, why am I supporting Vivek Ramaswamy? Well, number one, I'm not. As you can see by my hat, I support Trump 100% for re-election 2024. In fact, if you go back on this channel and look after the election in 2020, you'll see about 16 or 17 videos, which clearly indicate where my allegiances are. Also in our bio, we are a MAGA conservative outlet. So why are we talking about Vivek, a guy who got an endowment from the George Soros Foundation? Why are we talking about a guy who allegedly scrubbed his Wikipedia page to hide that? Why are we talking about Vivek Ramaswamy, a guy who is being accused of being a plant, a globalist, and all of this, anti-Israel, all of this? Why am I talking about this guy? Well, there's two reasons for that. Number one, Trump is not in the actual debates, and the stuff that Trump will be talking about is not being heard by the mainstream. As people who are into the political scene, political wonks like myself, we know about that. But what's not happening right now is we're not seeing that information from the Trump campaign being put out to the masses. So what we are seeing, though, is a bunch of globalist rhinos on stage pandering to everyone other than Americans. And I mean, who you have here? You have Nikki Haley, you have Tim Scott, you have Ron DeSantis, who I'm sure many people on here like. And I'm not trying to bash, well, we have, what's the guy's name? Chris Christie. I'm not here to bash any of those candidates per se. What I am bashing is the message. It doesn't seem like many of these people are actually America first. And whether Vivek is America first or not, he sure as heck is talking the talk. So whether he is genuine or disingenuous, he is putting the message out there in a way that's not being heard by anybody. And this reaction to these five, he calls it top 5 moments of the debate, it's pretty compelling. I've already seen it, but I do want to comment as a voiceover to it. So, and if you stick around to the end of this, there's actually a side comment that he made against Nikki Haley, which I thought was pretty interesting and pretty wow. I mean, just shows you who this guy is. Supposedly, he's worth about $1 billion. So that's also a positive in my regard, because he doesn't need a lot of funding from outside donors, because he has the money to internally do it. Again, I'm not endorsing Vivek. I'm endorsing Trump 100%. But yet, the message that he's saying is very Trumpian in his language. Here we go.
I say this as a member of my generation. I'm 38 years old. I'm the youngest person ever to run for U.S. president as a Republican. The reason my generation has lost our sense of national pride, in part, is because people in my generation feel like the American dream isn't available to them. And part of the reason why is we burdened them with 4-year college degrees that did not serve their head start on the American dream.
Okay, that's right there. I mean, college tuition, the whole notion of putting people into college for degrees that would do them nothing, put them into a debt situation, and then they come back out having zero skills, but having thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of student loan debt. Not good. In fact, we talked about last week about the Pandaverse episode of South Park, that very same thing. People can't even hammer a nail into a 2x4 because they have no skills whatsoever. And he's talking about that. And I think he's got a strong point there.
People will be more proud of a country if we're all making more money in that country. This is how we revive national pride and our identity. And it will take a CEO in the White House with zero-based budgeting, by the way, to take on the federal debt to get this job done. I want to be careful to avoid making the mistakes from the neocon establishment of the past. Corrupt politicians in both parties spent trillions, killed millions, made billions for themselves in places.
He sounded Jesse Jackson there. Made millions. Killed millions, made billions. Yeah, anyway, sorry.
Like Iraq and Afghanistan, fighting wars that sent thousands of our sons and daughters, people my age, to die in wars that did not advance anyone's interests, adding $7 trillion to our national debt. And Joe Biden sold off our foreign policy. Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, got a $5 million bribe from Ukraine. That's why we're sending $200 billion back to that same country. The fact of the matter is the Republican Party is not that much better. You have the likes of Nikki Haley, who stepped down from her time at the UN. Bankrupt or in debt was her family. Then she becomes a military contractor. She joins the board of Boeing and otherwise, and is now a multimillionaire. So I think that that's wrong when Republicans do it or Democrats do it. That's the choice we face. Do you want a leader from a different generation who's going to put this country first? Or do you want Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels?
One thing about Vivek is he's very, very polished. He reminds me a little bit of Bill Clinton. And that's not necessarily a bad thing in terms of just being a charismatic human being. Everything else Bill Clinton obviously is bad. But I remember Newt Gingrich said one time at a function that I was at where they were talking about basically how to be a campaign candidate and how to engage in the political process as a candidate. In fact, it was a campaign candidate school. And he said that Bill Clinton was probably the greatest politician he's ever met. He walks into a room, even people who hate him end up respecting him and enjoying their time in his presence because of his charisma. Vivek has that sort of deal there. And I think that's something that's getting him over in terms of getting his message across, because he is very clear and he's very assertive in what he does and says. But again, I'm not trying to necessarily endorse him, but that does come off to me as a positive for him. Again, everything else removed, the George Soros stuff and all that other stuff removed. I understand that. That's not the point. Please don't give me hate mail. Just understand, this is something where he is actually talking Trumpian language, America First language, in a debate where that's not even allowed, where they're not even talking about America first in the least. They're globalists, they're neocons, as he said, wanting to keep us into endless wars. And this is very refreshing, just hearing this.
All right, Mr.
In which case, we've got two of them on stage tonight.
Weigh in on this, ways that you can improve people's financial condition in the short term.
Right. And as a CEO, the economic question is core to my vision and policy prescription for this country. Increase the supply of everything. It's the law of supply.
And by the way, he's a CEO. I looked him up. He has some kind of, if I looked up again, he made a lot of money. So as a CEO, I think it was, if I had to remember, it had to do with medical or biotech. I don't know. But something of that nature, very technical. So he has that experience, which is why he's talking about we need a CEO in office.
Supplies and demand. Increase the supply of energy. That brings down the cost of energy, grows the economy. Drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear. Increase the supply of labor in this country. Stop using our taxpayer money to pay people more to stay at home instead of to go to work. Increase the supply of housing. People don't talk about this one in the Republican Party. The land use restrictions are constricting the supply of housing. That's making housing more expensive for ordinary Americans across this country. So that's the true answer. And I think it takes a CEO in the White House who actually understands this to get this done. Because Americans at home, they know the Bidenomics is a lie. Prices are going up. Interest rates and mortgages to buy your home are going up. But wages have remained flat. That's the hard diagnosis for our economy.
I have no objections to any of that in terms of policy.
We've talked a lot about foreign wars tonight, but we're in the middle of a war right here at home. It's a war not between black and white or Democrat and Republican. It's between those of us who believe in our founding ideals and love this country and a fringe minority who hates the United States of America. And I think it's going to take a commander-in-chief to lead us to...
He nailed that phrasing. Fringe minority who hates America. That's very, very good. And one thing Republicans aren't very good at is the word game, where Democrats and liberals, the left, they always take something that's horrible and then put a pretty wrapping around it in a bow, like Planned Parenthood, which basically is about, you know what they do. I'm not trying to get demonetized here, and so they do that a lot. BLM, another thing, but behind that is a Marxist organization, right? So your Republicans have a very difficult time of framing arguments with words that come across in a way that's convincing. And so by him saying these people, this fringe minority who hates America, that's very well done.
Victory in that war, who first of all knows that we're in a war. Second of all, can't be captured by the special interests along the way. But third is from the next generation.
And that's kind of key. That's one of the reasons why I like Trump so much, was that he wasn't really, especially in 2016, right? He really wasn't, he really wasn't beholden to the PACs, the lobbyists, all that stuff. He was really self-funded, especially in the beginning during the primary, which got him through Iowa, New Hampshire to South Carolina into Super Tuesday. And really, it's all about money at that point. See, what people understand in the primaries, if you don't have the money, you need sponsors. And sponsors don't think you can win. Guess what? they're not going to give you any money. Mike Huckabee was a guy I was for back, I believe it was in 2000, was that 8, I believe? He was 2008, 2004, somewhere, no, 2008, I believe. But he ran out of money because he didn't perform well. He performed okay in Iowa, I believe. He didn't perform well. He didn't perform well in, I think, New Hampshire. And I don't think he got too well in South Carolina. And by then, people had already had their mind made up in terms of the money. And it's only so much money that is out there if you are a corporate or a political action group or anything of that nature. And so he had to drop out. But Trump had that money to keep him in the race longer, even though he was performing really well anyway, so it didn't really matter. But he had the money just in case things didn't go well in the early primaries to go ahead and see Super Tuesday, which is basically the day when we actually know who is going to be the nominee. And I think if he has the money, Vivek, I'm not sure where he is in the polls right now, pretty low, I believe. He can get to the Super Tuesday primaries and we'll see what happens. But if you want to know how I feel about these elections, go back and look at some other videos, and I don't even have much faith in that. But I'm doing this just for the sake of, and the sole sake of basically talking about Trump and how his message is not being put out there, and how people like Vivek Ramaswamy, in his personality, in his charisma, and in his messaging, and also in a point that you'll see later in his engagement with Nikki Haley, he is putting a Trumpian face on a otherwise neocon establishment rhino setting.
With fresh legs to lead us to victory. I'll shut down the deep state. I'll declare economic independence from China. I'll keep us out of World War III and then revive national pride in this country. I also want to close with one message to the Democrat Party. End this farce that Joe Biden is going to be your nominee. We know he's not even the president of the United States. He's a puppet for the managerial class. So have the guts to step up and be honest about who you're actually going to put up so we can have an honest debate. Biden should step aside, end his candidacy now so we can see whether it's Newsom or Michelle Obama or whoever else. Right, just tell us the truth so we can have an honest debate.
You cut him off really quickly on that one. That's what I like there. He's shedding the light on a possibility that we all know it's going to happen, or we suspect strongly it's going to happen. And one thing you deal with these people, the swamp, and the people who are out there who are trying to hide behind, a flashlight is your best weapon because it exposes what they're trying to do and allows us to undermine their agenda. And so I like that. So no matter what you think about Vivek, you have to appreciate the fact that he's saying this on national television of an audience of 7.5 million people, and it's being played on YouTube and on this channel and everywhere else for people to see and think for themselves, which is why I like the fact that he's doing this, whether or not he's a plant or not.
I think there's something deeper going on in the Republican Party here, and I am upset about what happened last night. We've become a party of...
He's talking about the election last night, which I didn't even look at. Supposedly the Republicans did poorly, and I don't care. They deserve everything they get as long as they go away from Trump and don't back Trump and don't back his policies or his supporters, which are basic, hard-working Americans. I don't care about the GOP. As long as you have Roma McDaniel as your chairwoman, I don't care what happens. You deserve everything you get.
Losers at the end of the day. It was a cancer to the Republican establishment.
Thank you.
Let's speak the truth. I mean, since Ronna McDaniel took over as chairwoman of the RNC in 2017, we have lost 2018, 2020, 2022, no red wave that never came. We got trounced last night in 2023. And I think that we have to have accountability in our party. Kristen, I'm going to use this time because this is actually about you in the media and the corrupt media establishment. Ask you, the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that you pushed on this network for years, was that real or was that Hillary Clinton made up disinformation? Answer the question. Go.
Mr. Ramos, this is how we get our country back.
We need accountability because this media rigged the 2016 election. They rigged the 2020 election with the Hunter Biden laptop story. And they're going to rig this election.
Your time is up.
Accountability.
Let me turn to Governor Christie.
He may be the only person that's talking about accountability in terms of election integrity than anyone other than Trump. And I don't know. You guys tell me. I haven't been following the campaigns for the very reasons I mentioned before. So I think we're done here. I think we're done. It's interesting. He has Truth here. It's actually the same font, looks like, as Truth Social, which is Trump's platform, which I find pretty interesting. Maybe there's some hidden messages there as well. But before I close this out, I want to talk to you about this particular video where last night, 2 nights ago, in the debate, you had Vivek and Nikki Haley having an exchange, and I'll just let you see it for yourself.
Them from purchasing
you
land.
the website
so we stood
last
up
week.
and
Thank you,
Ambassador Haley,
Florida. Mr. Ramaswamy,
We've talked about this. You campaign on TikTok. How do you get TikTok banned if you use it?
Well, I want to laugh at why Nikki Haley didn't answer your question, which was about looking at families in the eye. In the last debate, she made fun of me for actually joining TikTok while her own daughter was actually using the app for a long time. So you might want to take care of your family first.
Leave my daughter out of your voice.
The next generation of Americans are using it.
So here's a couple things here. So he's about to answer the question. He basically was saying, look, he's basically saying he's answering the question. But before that, he just slammed Nikki Haley with the whole hypocrisy thing. And then you have the crowd booing, which is full of pretty much, globalists and whatever. So if they're booing him, then maybe that's a good thing. Okay. You tell me. But the fact is, he goes on to answer the question, basically saying that everyone is on TikTok, so we should be there as well. And it's not just about other applications, which I don't know. I don't have TikTok. At some point, I think we may go there, but it'll be in a way where it's not tied to a cell phone. It's tied to another device that's not connected as much to the internet with personal information. I'm still debating getting on TikTok, but that's a whole topic for another discussion. Let's finish this up here quick.
And that's actually the point. You have her supporters propping her up. That's fine. Here's the truth.
You're just
the easy
scum.
answer is actually...
She called him scum right there. So there's my reaction and my commentary on the debate with Vivek. And I don't anticipate doing any more of these. But again, the reason why I did this video was to basically say, look, again, Trump is not in the debate, but having someone talk about the same issues that he would talk about in the way he would talk about it, those issues, and attack those very people that we ourselves don't like, the mainstream media, the commentators, and the other globalist neocon candidates on stage, that is very refreshing. And it takes me back to a time where Trump was just the rave and just doing it and just knocking down opponent after opponent by his truthfulness and his candor, his humor, and his charisma. And if you like what you see here, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you as we continue to destroy the woke narratives.